Hey guys, today is the Facebook Meta, whatever you want to call it, section. We're going to go over ads. We're going to go over how to create campaigns, how to create audiences, how to read the data that you are getting from these campaigns, how to optimize our picture sizing, understanding KPIs, connecting pixels. This is going to be very in-depth, and it's actually going to be two parts. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, obviously this is Habits account. I have access to a lot, but the only thing I'm going to use right now is this. So essentially the first thing I want to go over is, excuse me, how to set up a campaign, right? So nice and easy. We're going to click the big green create button. So there's a couple of different options. The ones I use are sales and leads. Now, some would argue, hey, traffic is good. Maybe for the beginning stages, we can set up a traffic campaign. Pretty simple and straightforward, and the same elements apply. I want to actually start with the most complex, which is sales, because obviously that's what we want, sales. Now, the way we do that might be unconventional or different than you might expect. However, it allows us to get the most best results, okay? So I'm gonna actually move my face over here. And let's get started. So we're gonna go to continue. Now, there's a couple of options. I typically like to choose manual just because you have more flexibility. When you do Advantage, you just have to go with Meta's suggestions on everything, which sometimes are good, but sometimes are not sort of up to date. So we're gonna go with manual. So then we're gonna hit continue. Now, there's a couple different types of campaigns. So we're gonna just start with test dummy campaign. Okay, nice and easy. All right, now, special ad categories, don't really worry about it for clothing. Catalog, for now, we're gonna turn it off. Auction, sales, right? There's nothing else you need to do on those for now. Advantage campaign budget, okay, what was formerly known as ABO and CBO. I'm not going to use that language because it's outdated. So what I'm going to say is Advantage campaign budget on or off. Now, what is the difference and what does this matter? So if we turn this on, what's going to happen is the entire campaign is going to spend whatever we tell it to spend, right? And so basically, if I put $5 here, the entire campaign is going to spend $5. Every ad set is going to be under the same $5. Now, if I say, nope, this is actually off, on the ad set level is where I'm going to create the budget. And so I want this ad set specifically to spend $5. I want another ad set to specifically spend $5, and I don't want there to be any competition. Whereas if I turn this on and I say, hey, this is going to spend $10, these ad sets might not go 5 and 5. It might go 8 and 2 or 10 and 0. Or even 3 and 7, right? We don't know. And so that's just an example. So what is the difference? What is the advantages? I'm just going to come out and tell you, Advantage campaign budget should usually be on. The only time it's going to be off is if, let's say, we're selling 30 shirts and 100 hoodies, right? And we have $40 to spend. Well, we're going to make an ad set that says shirts. We're only going to dedicate maybe 15 to that. And then we're going to have another one that says hoodies, and we're going to dedicate 25 to that. Why? Because we have a lot more hoodies in stock. That's an example. The only time I would ever, the only time I would ever use not Advantage campaign budget, meaning turning it off. So let's get into it. So let's turn this on for right now, okay? And then we're going to go ahead to next. Now, what do we do with the conversion, right? So we want to have website and shop. If we don't have that set up, that's okay. We could just go to our commerce manager and eventually, or rather to business settings and eventually set up the commerce manager here. That's going to be in the next video because that's sort of secondary stuff. For right now, for simplicity purposes, let's just do website, okay? Now, we want to make sure always maximum number of conversions, right? Now, let's say we're selling a high value item, then maybe maximum value, right? We can do that. Typically, 95% of the time, we're going to want to do maximum number. Now, we obviously need a pixel attached. If you don't have a pixel, I'm going to show you how to create one. Essentially, all we're going to do is we're going to create one and hook it up to Shopify. That is going to be in another video. And then we want people to purchase, right? So we're going to go to find purchase. Boom. Now, if you're in the beginning stages, if you're just starting to run your ads and you have not run anything before, you're going to do add to cart. Spencer, why would we do that? I don't want add to carts, I want purchases. Well, the reason that we need to do that is because add to cart is going to be a cheaper and more efficient way to get more people. So after we get, 10 add to carts, then the pixel, the Facebook pixel, the thing that's capturing the data, is going to have enough to say, okay, we're confident we can go after purchases now. And sometimes add to cart may even work better. I wouldn't recommend it for maybe the first $100 you spend, do add to carts, but then afterwards you're going to want to do purchase. So for the purpose of today's video, we're going to do purchase. Now, here's where it gets fun. So we're going to go to United States, audiences. Do we use Advantage? Do we use Original? What do we do, right? Now, there's a couple ways to go about this. So what we're going to start with is we're going to just use detailed targeting, okay? We're going to get into customs and lookalikes later in this video. So let's say I am selling, let's use clothing. Let's just use Habits clothing, okay? I'm selling Habits clothing. I know my demographic, or I'm going to at least take an educated guess. So I'm going to take an educated guess. I'm going to say between 18 and 40, okay? Now, for clothing specifically, this is what I want to do. So I always want to break it down when I'm doing a broad audience, right? I'm going after a lot of people. I always want to break it down like this, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing. So the first thing I want to break down, I need to see if people are even shopping. If someone's not going to be an engaged shopper or into online shopping, I'm not going to be the first product they buy. It's just not going to happen. And so what I want to do is the first tier that I want Meta to go after is, hey, engage shoppers online shopping, because then everything after that is going to become a more likely reason to purchase. Okay, now, what type of clothing do I have? Well, I have streetwear. Can't spell though, but that's okay. So I'm going to go after streetwear, apparel. Let's say we have some fitness gurus in this group. So we're going to go after fitness apparel maybe. Oh, that doesn't give me an option. So let's just say fitness. Let's just say physical fitness, right? No reason not to. Let's also do people who are into hip hop maybe. Yeah. What about like Michael Jordan shoes, like Jordan? Let's see if that comes up. Yeah. No. Jordan the place. Air Jordan, right? Great. Okay. We pretty much have an understanding of what our demographic is, okay? And let's maybe motivation, right? It's just a fifth one. Psychology. Sure, great. We still have a pretty big estimated audience size. Let's define it even further. Now, so we're going after people who are first engaged shoppers and online shopping interest. Okay, great. Next, anybody who fits these categories. And then finally, let's keep it simple. Clothing, right? People are going to want to buy our clothing. And now our audience is narrowed down even more. Still a pretty big audience. That's going to happen. It's normal because we're going after a lot of people. And so this is always how I like to break it down. Now, there's a bunch of other ways you could do this, right? If you're selling, women's hair care to older people, right? Or older women, right? Okay, maybe this is a 35 to 65 for women. And yeah, we still want to keep engaged shoppers in online shopping, but instead we want to go after, people who are into women's hair, right? Let's look that up. No, hair care. So hair care, there we go. Let's see, and we can always go to suggestions, right? Beauty salons, hairstyle, cosmetics, beauty, right? We can put as many things as we wanted here. I typically don't like to overflow this. A lot of agencies and people put 12, 13, 15. I don't think that's necessary. Really sticking to top 5, because then what happens is you're not going to know which sort of helped, right? When it's 5, we can keep it simple. But if we have 30 in here, who knows if 20 of them were useless and 10 were good? We don't know. So I like to keep it pretty simple. And so, again, we're going to break this down. And then let's say it's, the third thing. Well, it's not clothing, so it's going to be, maybe instead it'll be something where it's a product. So hair products, right? We can further define by hair products, right? And maybe that will help lower our audience size. Does it? Yes, it does. All right, let's roll with it. And so this is essentially how I want to use targeting. And essentially that's what we want to do. So now let's go further. So now we're going to go to the ad level, okay? And so what we want to do, we always want to make sure that our pages are connected, right? The identity, you got to have these. If they're not, again, that will be in another video, kind of explaining the ads manager setup and everything like that. So, and we can label these and do what we want there. So Here are a couple of different ways we can do it. We can do manual upload, which I typically recommend. If we want to do a carousel, so we want to have a bunch of products in a row, we can do carousel. And then what we'll do is we'll add cards. I'm just going to do a dummy example. And let's just do, I don't know, this and this, right? They're just made up. And so what will happen is people will just be able to scroll. Right now, let's say, hey, you know what? I actually want a single image. Okay, you can do that too. And so we're going to add a single image. We're going to add this. Now, this part is overlooked so much, so often, and it's so important, but nobody pays attention to it. Cropping. You have to have optimal, no, you don't have to do anything. It is very recommended that you have optimal cropping and sizing for the images. Why? Why is that, Spencer? Who cares? It's just an image. Well, when people look on their feed, and they see something on their story that's cropped, or they're not going to be able to see it. We want it to take up the whole screen. And so, let's do 9:16. Oh, that looks weird. That's odd. Let's go ahead and replace that image. Oh, we have one that fits so perfectly. How did that happen? Well, what I did was, when the designer made this, I said, have it be feed and story optimal. Meaning, people can see the same image, but on two different mediums, the feed and the story, right? What is the point of ads, right? We want people to buy our stuff. How are they going to buy? They need to get on our website. How are they going to get on our website? They need to click our ad. How are they going to click our ad? If it's visually appealing, our chances of them clicking exponentially higher, right? So you might think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Maybe not when you're spending $10 a day, but when you're spending $500 a day, $1,000 a day, $250 a day, it's going to make a big difference. And when you're spending your money into your business and investing, you're going to want to have optimal ads. And so the feeds and the stories are the most important. We need to have 9:16 and 1:1 or 4:5, depending on the image. The right column, completely different from what I just said. Actually, it doesn't matter. Nobody views that. No one sees it, right? And so we want to go next. All of this, don't touch. The only thing I would say is the music for pictures. Sometimes random music plays. I don't know why. Clearly they don't either, because that just shouldn't. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Well, regardless, just turn the music off. I don't know why this thing is freaking out, but I'm gonna just all you need to do is go here and turn it off, okay? Because always some weird like violin is playing in the background, and it's not necessary. So, moving on. Let me move my face again. So, excuse me. So, primary text, best-selling hoodie is here, right? Whatever floats your boat, right? Headline, we don't really need. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't care for it. Shop now, we want that to be the call to action. We want people to shop, right? And so we want to send them to the link of the product, whatever that might be. We want to make sure this is green, meaning our pixel is on and it is firing and it is live and active, right? Super, super important. And we're going to get to audiences in a moment. But this is essentially the basics of how to set up a campaign. Now, well, Spencer, I want to run 2 ads because I have 2 bestsellers actually. No problem. Sounds great. All we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this ad. And now we are going to run 2 ads, right? We're going to have new sales ad 2, right? And again, you can label these and put different things on these. We're going to trash the media like I just did. And now we're going to add a new image, right? We're going to add a new media. Let's say it's this item, okay? Now I'm cheating right now because I'm not gonna optimize this right now, but I'm cheating. So don't do what I just did. Bad. Make sure to always music off. There we go. Done. Okay, now I have another best-selling hoodie. Remember, change the link out. Make sure the link goes to the product, not to the general website, unless we're doing a carousel. Okay? That's very important. I'm just messing with the caption here. You can change it to say kind of whatever you want. I just want to lay the general structure out, okay? So now we have 2 ads going to the same group of people. Okay, Spencer, but I have another idea. What if I targeted these products to somebody else? Like people who, did an action or took an action, or, what if I want to use Facebook's audience? You can do that. You just have to duplicate the ad set like I just did. We're never going to duplicate the campaign. We're only going to duplicate ads and ad sets. Duplicating the campaign doesn't do what you think it does. But this time I'm going to use the Advantage audience. So I'm going to use Facebook's audience, okay? Now all this detailed targeting I'm going to get rid of because I'm using an audience. I don't need it anymore. And so I'm going to get to that when I talk about lookalike and customs. But if you'll see, the ads are the exact same, right? Exact same. And this is how we structure a general campaign. Now, so Spencer, we can only target certain people. I want to target more people. How do we get in front of more eyeballs? Well, we are going to go to audiences, and this is where I'm going to go over custom and lookalike audiences. So as you'll see, I have a ton of audiences, but let's start real nice and easy. So what we're going to do, we're going to create audience. We're going to always start with creating a custom audience. A custom audience is, what does Facebook say? Who have already been shown an interest in your business. You can create an audience from customer contacts, website traffic, or mobile app. Great. So I want to target people who have, visited the website in the last, 90 days, right? So then what we're going to do, and I'm going to do a random amount of days because I already have this, but I want to just show you guys how to make it. So let's just say 120 days. I'm just making this up. So we're going to say website visitors 120 days, right? Create the audience. So now anybody who's visited is now in this audience. Fantastic. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a lookalike audience, and I'm going to search up audience visitors website 120 days. United States, right, wherever you're selling your products, just do one country. If you're in Canada or you're Mexico or wherever, Europe, you'll just do it again. So you'll have a United States version, or you'll have a Europe version, or an England, wherever you are. But for US-based companies, stick to this. Don't do further than 1% for right now. Let's keep it very simple, and we'll create the audience, right? Nice and easy. Okay, perfect. It's populating. It takes maybe 12 hours to populate this. So if you try to post it right away, it's not going to work. It's going to tell you, there's not enough. That's okay, don't worry. It's going to take some time, okay? Now, let's create another audience. Instead of website, let's go ahead and do Instagram account, right? Let's do it, okay. So now what we can do is we can have some fun, and I'm going to show you guys what I did earlier. So let's say I just want to do followers, right? So anybody who started following this account, I want IG followers, okay? Create an audience. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go again, create the lookalike, go in here, IG followers, and as you see, I've already done this, but that's okay, United States, 1%, and create, right? I'm not going to do that because I already did, but you get the point. And I'm going to delete this because I don't need it because I already did it. However, as you can see here, I have a bunch of 30-day audiences and a bunch of 90-day audiences. Now, what is the difference? Well, based on an action they took within IG, if they followed, if they sent a message, if they engaged, right there is a different response. And what I'm going to do is when I set up my campaign, as I'm going to show y'all after I do this, I'm going to actually stack them together. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And then we can do add to cart, right? View content, right? Anything that we want, Facebook allows us to do now. Spencer, I want to find a list of people who are similar to my email and text list. Great. Customer list, boom, same process. And then we'll do that again and again. And so then what we can do is create a bunch of custom audiences, a bunch of lookalikes, and the more data we capture, the longer, or rather the fewer days we'll be able to measure, which is good, right? Imagine if you can just target people who added a cart in the last 7 days. That's pretty precise. Now, we can't do it early on because we might only have 3 people who added a cart, but when we have a larger platform and a bigger business, we'll be able to go after those people even easier. So let's jump back over to campaigns. So this is essentially how to do custom and lookalike audiences. Very important. I would recommend you do website visitors, view content, Instagram, everything, purchasers, of course, add to carts, of course, email list, everything. You can really take advantage of it. And I'll actually go back here and kind of scroll through this one more time. I feel like I rushed that last section, so I'm going to just go through this nice and slow so you can see what is happening and what is being added. So you can see, and you'll see 10%, 3%. Don't worry about that yet. That's basically just another layer of people that we have, right? So if someone purchased, we're getting a 1% version of difference, but, let's say we want a 2% version. Those don't always perform. I find 1% perform best, so that's what I like to go after. That's what I like to use. So that's just me, though. All right, guys. Next, thank you for sticking with this. I know it's a little complicated, a little scary, but don't worry. You will get the hang of it, and you will get used to it. Now, okay, so I want to target people who look like... So we're going to reset these ages. We never want to do detailed targeting and custom and lookalikes at the same time. There's going to be too much overlap. We're not going to be able to read the data. So let's say I want to do IG stacked 90 days. So I'm going to choose all my 90-day metrics plus followers, right? Just because, why not? 1%. And then I'm going to label this IG stacked lookalike 1%. 90 days. Nice and easy, right? Simple. And so then what I can do is, again, I want to target another group of people with the same 2 ads. And I never like to do more than 3 ad sets per, campaign, okay? Try to stick to 3 at the max. So I want to go after purchasers. Who looks like purchasers within the last 90 days? Well, let's find out and let's relabel it. Website, purchasers, 90-day lookalike, right? And we can label it whatever we want, 1%. It doesn't really matter, just so you know what is what, okay? And so essentially what we want to do is we want to break these down. Now, eventually what we're going to do is I want you to have 2 campaigns, okay? I want you to have 2. I want one to be dedicated to lookalikes, and then I want another to be dedicated to broad sets, right? So essentially how the breakdown goes is the following. Week 1, add to cart conversion base, broad audiences. Use as many creatives as you want. 3 to 4 should suffice. Don't do more than that, okay? Then, based on which creatives worked, I want you to test another batch of creatives, not with the same ones. After that 2 weeks is up, you'll see which ones do the best. Then, I want you to do broad purchase. So instead of add to cart, right, I want you to go directly for purchases, right? Not add to cart anymore, purchases, okay? And again, you'll see your estimated audience size here, okay? Then I want you to create a lookalike campaign where we're only using lookalike audiences after maybe 1 or 2 weeks of purchases, depending on how big your audience is. If you're at the bare minimum, if you're just getting started, if you have really no data, it's going to take about 3 weeks. If you have some data already, you can jump in, probably less than 10 days. It depends. The broad audiences are good to use. They do work, but the lookalikes are even more precise, and I do want you guys to use them. So eventually what we'll do is we'll break it down into 2 different campaigns, and eventually brand ambassador campaigns are something we can discuss. Again, that's going to be a later video, but we'll talk about that. But essentially, this is kind of how we want to set this up. I'm going to delete this because I don't actually need it. But that is basically what you're going to do is we're going to have 2 campaigns. To start, we're just going to have 1 broad campaign, and then eventually what we're going to do, we're going to change that broad campaign over to a purchase campaign, and then we're going to add a lookalike campaign. We're going to have them running side by side with the top creatives, top selling items. Let's always focus on the best sellers and the new drops for the beginning stages of ads. Eventually, when you get into $100+ a day, the strategy becomes a little more complex, but for now, this is what I want the strategy to be focused on, and this is what I want to really be able to push out and get in front of people. Remember, we need people to stop their scroll, and so this is how we do it structurally, but ultimately, the most important thing, all this stuff is important. The number one most important thing is having good creatives, having good pictures, good videos, good content. Right? If we don't have good content, people are not going to click. And so we want to ensure that, hey, we have something that's cool that people are going to stop in their scroll and they're going to click on our image or video. There will be another video talking about pixel connectivity and sort of the back end boring stuff with Facebook. But just a real quick overview. Business settings is where we're going to go to, if we want to add people, we want to subtract people, we want to have an ad account, right? We want to make sure we have all of that in here, so on and so forth, right? And so this is where we want to go to make sure that everything is put in place. If you see this ever disabled, right, that's a different video, that's a different conversation. It is something that we can help with if you need. We also have resources who have run ads. We have a management side of the agency where we will run your ads for you. We'll create your landing pages, we'll create your website, we'll do all those things for you, and we will run your ads daily, like I've done with my brand and many others that I work with here that you can see. Just a quick little overview. But essentially, this is an explanation of what to do start to finish, how to create a campaign, how to create custom and lookalike audiences, how to optimize your picture sizing, make sure the 9:16 for the stories and the 1:1 or 4:5 for the feed. The next video is going to talk about reading data, KPIs, pixel connectivity, and everything like that, and kind of wanted to go over the resources with you guys again. So thank you for watching, and looking forward to you seeing the next section.